you know.
Oh,
You got
okay,
you
got it. It's
whenever you
that
have
time of the year.
toddlers. Yep, exactly.
I know all about it. I have a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So I've been
Ooh,
sick for
fun.
7 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yep. Well, Derek, tell for those who don't know you, share with me a little bit about your background, how you got started in the markets.
Okay, so I've been trading for about, I would say, a little over 7 years now. And I just got swindled in from IML, and one of my
Everybody I
buddies.
talk to, that's where they got their start, right?
Yeah, and I'm not mad about it at all. Like, as soon as I got in, I was like, nah, this isn't for me. Like, these guys don't even know what they're teaching, if they're even teaching anything. So I immediately got out, but I was very fascinated with trading. So I just stuck with it. I watched a Steve Morrow market maker method video. That's the only video I
Hmm.
had ever watched, and I actually created a little strategy out of like different things that were in his videos, but it's not the way he trades. But I noticed things, so I created a strategy out of it, and I used to scalp the 1 minute chart with this strategy, and I would just get anywhere from 7 to 9 pips per trade, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. I did that for 5 years,
Wow, that's
and
tiring. It's a long 5 years of scalping.
it is. I'm at that point right now where it'd be nice to take a couple months off from looking at the charts, and I'll probably do that this winter, honestly. Just, I feel like when you take a little break from the charts, you come back like so much smoother. Because,
Yeah, energized, of course.
yeah, and you like want to be on the charts because it does. I don't know about you, but after so long, you're on the charts for so long, it gets a little tiring.
Of course.
So I think those breaks are needed. But yeah, I just developed. Well, the obviously I was doing the scalping, and then I was like, you know what? I don't want to be like in and out of trades. So I learned technical analysis, like a really, I watched some YouTube videos on it, got a good enough thing. Like I have really good pattern recognition. So I started to develop like the strategy that I'm doing now, that I've been doing with like confluence. If there's confluence and I get the signal alerts, that's when I take the trade. So that's
Got it.
basically, I mean, I look for very specific areas of confluence in the market, whether it's trend line, retest, and then I see if my TDI lines up with the trade that I'm looking at, and if it does, then I'll take that trade.
Cool. Awesome. And how long
Yeah.
have you been trading that stuff? You said about 5 years for scalping?
So 5 years, it was probably 4.5 years, 4 years of scalping, and then 3 years of, my favorite time frame's the 4 hour now.
Would you say there was a big change in your profitability when you switched over?
I actually wouldn't say there was a massive change in the profitability. It's just less time of having to be looking at the charts, essentially. Like if I get into a trade, I kind of stalk a trade.
Hmm.
And so like I wait for that trade to come up, and if it doesn't hit that area I'm looking for, then I just don't take the trade. But once it does, that's when I really like look for my entries, and I'll look for my entries on the lower time frames, 5 minute, 15, which helps that I did scalp for. I recognize these patterns that I scalped for so long, and correlating that with higher time frames really is what kind of dial it down. But I wouldn't say the profitability's really much different. It's just like the trade, like per trade, yes, I'm
Right,
making
right.
more per trade, but overall, I mean, I'm growing
Hmm.
as time comes. So like obviously I'm making more as I'm getting better and my finances are growing. But other than that, it's same thing
Consistent,
over and over
still
again.
consistent.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody? So we have a lot of guys who come in and maybe they have a little bit of trading experience, maybe they're brand new, and that fast trading style really appeals to them, right? Scalping, they kind of come in to say, I don't want to hold it too long. They're not confident in a strategy, so they want to jump in and jump out. And a lot of times for new guys, that's going to lead to a lot of hardship and a lot of loss. How would you kind of
Yeah.
coach somebody along that methodology towards something more sustainable?
So this is what I always say to my students. Like, I have no problem with people scalping. I actually think scalping in the beginning is phenomenal because especially if you're going to stick to the same strategy you're scalping with and doing it on the higher time frames. So that's essentially what I did is I scalped for so long. Now when I see these patterns happen on the higher time frames, like I've seen it happen over and over again because the patterns happen
Right,
on
right.
every time frame over and over again. And so that's really I don't have an issue with people scalping. I think it's great for when you're really starting to learn because let's put it this way, like if you're on the four hour chart and you're looking for these specific setups, they're obviously going to happen a lot less than if you're on the 5 minute or the
Of course.
15-minute chart. So when you're in the beginning years, like get as many patterns, like try to figure out the pattern recognition
Oh, that's
and
all.
getting
That's a
it
great
in.
point. So it like turbocharges you having to look at
Hmm.
patterns. So it's kind of like back testing or a replay, where
Yep.
you're just doing it in live. That's an interesting take on it. That's really great. And then you can take those
Yeah.
patterns to a larger time frame at some point.
Exactly, exactly. And that's exactly what I did. And now I'm confident. Obviously, you have to like the risk management's exactly the same. Like I typically will do a 1 to 3. Sometimes less, sometimes more, depends on the setup, right? But that's just kind of the thing with it is if you can do it, and I think that you should be able to do a strategy on every time frame. Um, Not that there's like a yes or no. Oops. Not that there's like a yes or no, like you have to do that. But if you're gonna do a strategy, I feel like stick to that strategy. That's one thing I've never done is veered off from my strategy. I've just added to it to give me even more edge in the market.
Right, right. One thing I've seen, and maybe you could give me your opinion on this, is guys who are scalping, particularly new guys, of course, they don't have the risk management side down. It's moving a little too fast for them to calculate risk management, and they kind of it kind of gets away from them, and that's where they really fall apart.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is my methodology out of trading. The more you systemize your trading, the better you're going to be off in the long run. Like, for example, a lot of people don't know what lot size to use for what they're wanting to risk, right? So if
Of course.
I'm got a 30 pips stop loss and I only want to risk 1% of my account for that 30 pips, you should have a system that gets you the lot size you need in order to, stay at that 1%. I think so many people are doing it blindly and not having a system for everything. And that's for everything for me. Like before I enter a trade, I know exactly how much I'm risking and where my stop loss is going to go, where my take profit's going to go. And there's no like guessing because the more you're
Right.
guessing, the more you're just kind of winging it. So that's why I
Exactly.
say, get a system for everything, including your lot size. Like figure out however it works for you. I mean, there's so many lot size calculators out there, but do it. Like because at first it's going to feel a little foreign and it's going to feel a little like, dang, this takes a little bit of time instead
Right.
of just
Also,
being able to
it's
enter.
not the sexy part at all, right? That
It's
that off
not.
the charts part, everybody hates it, but that's really where you become good.
Exactly. And trading's not sexy. Like obviously you can make a ton of money from it, but the people that are actually doing it and not making a ton of money on businesses outside of trading, I mean, they have that system and they're all the same type of person that they're pretty organized, scheduled, and they just have it down to
Right.
a science almost. So it's like they know what's going to happen if they lose. They know what's going to happen if it's going to win. It's and I believe that you should have an understanding before you enter a trade what you're expecting out of a loss or a win.
Is that something you developed over time, or was it pretty much as soon as you started trading back in the old days when you were scalping, you had that discipline to have that off the
No,
chart type
no.
stuff?
So my win rate scalping used to be like super high. But what people didn't see is the times where like I didn't have a good risk management system. So like I would have a super high win rate, but the trades that got away from me, I mean, they got away
Right.
from me and
Right.
took out a month's worth of profit,
Yep.
So, and it happened to me 3 times, and that was at the point where I was like, all right, dude, I'm so sick of like waking up, doing the same thing every day, making great money, and then losing it all because of this risk management thing. So that's when I really started taking everything serious. And this is what I call the Pareto principle. It's a real thing, but it's discovering like basically you can be doing 80% of the things right in your trading. But the 20% that you're doing wrong is actually the percent that's holding you back and what's keeping you profitable. So if you can figure out what that 20% is and start notching away and start like getting better. Okay, I fixed my risk management. Okay, you're doing 85% right now.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
so you're notching it off, and the more you notch it off, and like, but the thing is, you got to be honest with yourself, and you have to be able to figure out what you're doing wrong. For me, it was obvious, like, okay, you're holding your losers, bro. You got to fix that problem,
And
you
is this
know?
something you accomplished through journaling, through mentorship? How did you get there?
Dude, I honestly think it was from teaching. Like
Ah,
teaching
interesting.
made me better. And so like and I tell people like you don't have to sell it by any means, but make a course on how you trade. Like pretend you're teaching someone how you trade, and that goes for everything from A to Z, from your risk management, your stop loss, your take profit, why you're doing everything. Make a course for yourself. And the things like when I make courses, right? Like if I don't know something, I research it. And so then I do learn it. So that's where all my knowledge has basically came from is like, okay, I built a course, but I also had to learn a lot while I was building that
Right, that's
course.
a neat thing. 'Cause like you said, if there was you, maybe you were doing something you didn't know why you were doing it, so you had to take a real deep introspective look as to what it was you were doing, why you were doing it, so that you could explain it to the students, and then you understood it better.
Exactly. And I think everyone pretty much has the fundamental same issues when it comes to trading. It's not that, strategies are better than others. It's like their system is not systemized yet and they're just kind of winging it instead of having that full on system. But once you have that full on system, I promise that's when you're going to start seeing great results. But you also have to stick to it and you can't go against your system and you can't be over risking. You can't be moving your stop loss. It's got to be something that's done over and over time because if you're, doing a 1 to 3 risk reward and you have a strategy with an edge, I mean, I think you need to win like 3 out of 10 trades to be profitable. It
Right.
might even be, so I mean, I would say with my strategy, like if you wait for the confluences and you wait for the specific thing you need to see on your my TDI for me to enter, you're gonna win 8 out of 10 of those if you're taking every single one of them. But when you start picking and choosing, it's like okay, well maybe you're picking and choosing the wrong ones,
Sure.
and next thing you know, it's like, well you're picking the losers, man, or
Yeah. Yep.
it's
Yeah. It's all that the game of averages and probabilities. You need that broad spectrum, those
exactly,
thousands of trades averaged out over time. How long did it take you to
exactly.
become a profitable trader back in the old days?
Man, I got lucky. So I started trading during Brexit. Well, before Brexit, but I didn't have any money back then, but I made 6 figures in one trade by
Wow.
shorting. Yeah,
Wow.
by shorting uh, GJ during Brexit. And so I made a bunch of money, and that was kind of my little
So you had a
honey
bankroll.
pot.
Yeah. You now
Yeah,
now you're in the
exactly.
game. Yeah.
Yep. And so that's when everything, I mean, it was luck because I could have easily blew the $12,000 that was in there from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But, I got lucky and then, I grew it, made some stupid decisions, bought a car, cash, 1/3 of my account's gone from that,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden your psychology's not right because you want to make that money back. And next thing you know, you lose another 30% of your account and you're like, dang, dude, you got to figure out what the heck's going on so that you can continue to build. It's all just
Exactly.
trial and error for me.
hmm So when you had that big win, and like you said, I mean, you were probably trading on incredibly high leverage at the time, I would imagine,
Yeah,
right? So
yes, yes,
now
yes.
now so you've tasted that side of things. Is that something you advocate now for students, or you say, hey, listen, we're gonna play it really close to the cuff, low leverage, low risk? What are some of your
So,
trading principles?
so for people that want this to be a career, I mean, with the opportunities that we have now, I mean, you can get $1 million for $6,500 to $8,500, depends if you guys have a coupon or not. But if you're equipped enough and you're profitable and you just take that account as like a serious, like, okay, this is my game plan. I'm risking 1% per trade for 3% gains on per every trade. And that's just during the passing phase, right? Well, once you get it past, risk 0.25% on your account to make 0.75 or whatnot. That's a great return.
Yeah,
But so many
absolutely.
people are trying to hit that home run where it's like, dude, just like you can live on $1 million account risking 1% per trade
And live
as
comfortably. I mean, it's a game
and live
changer.
very it is. And people just want to win big and they want to risk huge to win big, and I get that, but if you actually want to stick to this, I 100% believe that you have to do it the right way, which is using risk management and having that system. That
And this is something in
now,
your. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, no. But
I was saying, you gonna
now it's
say
gonna go ahead, go
we
ahead.
got a little delay. Sorry about that. I was gonna say, is something in your course that you're able to communicate to students because you've seen both sides, I would imagine.
Exactly, exactly. And it is different trading a funded account from your own personal account. Because from your own personal account, I mean, depending on the size, I mean, you can risk more and, whatnot. I still don't recommend that. Now, if you're gonna account flip, then you're gonna account flip. You have to know what you're gonna lose. Like, I don't have an issue with people putting in 100K if they have 100K to blow to risk that to make 400K. They can blow that 3 or 4 times and get their money back, and eventually they're gonna hit. But who has 100K that they're willing to lose? Not a
Right.
lot of people. But
Sure.
you can do that on with $1,000. Okay, I'm gonna risk $1,000 to make 5,000 or 10,000.
Do you still see a
I
lot of
don't.
people trying to do flipping?
Yeah, yeah. You
It's
know,
still a popular thing. I mean, it's such gambling. I mean, for us, we try to stay far away from those traders. It's just essentially money down the drain for them and for us. So we're looking for base hitters, people who are going to small incremental wins where they're going to add up large over time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like I'm not associated with somebody that's trying to flip accounts. It's not my style. I think that it's a poor way to do things and I don't think it's sustainable. Like you get lucky once, but what are you going to do with that money? If you already have that mindset, most likely you win big, you're going to go buy a Rolex or something stupid and now you're broke again.
Right.
Um, just from what I've seen. Now, you obviously see the people that are selling courses and have marketed themselves that do very well with it all, but I'm sure there's a lot behind the scenes that's not being told. And how many accounts did they blow to make that 80K? Stuff
Sure.
like that.
Sure. Yeah. No, there's a lot of deception online. Everybody's got
Hmm.
a motive for some reason.
Exactly.
They're trying to sell a course, trying to sell training, passing services, EAs, and people really have to sift through that because a lot of times it's very appealing.
Exactly. And it is like, of course, everyone wants to get rich fast, but the way to true freedom, like at this point in my trading career, like this is kind of how I feel. It's like just the beginning, because now I have different visions. Like, do I want to go hedge fund route? Do I want to get as many funded accounts as I possibly can and just keep reinvesting my profits into buying more and more funded accounts? Like, there's so many opportunities, and like if you do 10% in a month on 100 or $1 million account, after split, that's 90K. So, I mean, if you can even do 2% a month, I mean, that's a nice 240,000 dollars a year
Right.
off of a $6,000 investment. Of course, the time and stuff, everything's put in, but I mean, there's great opportunities right now for traders.
Absolutely. So let's jump over to that a little bit because we're of course a prop firm. You've been in the prop space for a long time, been affiliated
Yep.
with other firms. Um, Kind of share with me the journey when you were trading your own account on that super high leverage back in the day to when you kind of first rolled into a prop account, and what were your thoughts, and was it a game changer as it is today?
So here's my thing. So like this is actually my I've actually this is my first series of funded accounts that I'm
Oh,
doing
wow.
right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I've never done it. I've always traded my own personal money. Um, but I figured, hey, if I can, you know, get $3.5 million and get to keep 80 to 90% of the profits from that, just doing what I'm doing, like I'm gonna do that too.
Yeah,
Because you're not gonna.
the math is silly.
Yeah, it is. It really is because you're not going to get those splits with an investor or anything like that. So, to me, that's kind of the route that I see myself going at this point. But it is different because, you do have a little bit more guidelines. And for me, I'm learning the prop firms right now. So I'm learning what size the contracts are and stuff like that because it's different on
Sure. Yeah,
different,
there's definitely a learning curve.
so. There is, and that's my only thing. But I kind of went in head first instead of just going for one. Right now, I'm trying for. I think there's 10 prop firm accounts that I'm doing, with Surge being my main one.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to
But
have
I
you.
like I like it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I like it. Um, and like I just said, there's not where else can you have a skill set where you get $1 million based on a one phased evaluation for 6,500 bucks? And I'm not even trying to sell it. Like it's just to me common sense. Like if you have that, heck yeah, I'm gonna use your guys' $1 million before I'm gonna use my own.
Yeah, absolutely. I
You
mean, you
know?
could put your own to higher and better use. Real estate,
Exactly.
gold, IRAs. There's so many better uses. I always tell people this. It was one of the things I was so surprised about when I came. I come from traditional finance, and I thought we were going to be able to help the people with all the low income people, but really, I was so surprised at how many high income people rather use our money than their money to trade with, and it just makes sense
Yeah,
once you think about it. How
it
would you
does.
say, from your class perspective, your students, would you say most of them are trading prop?
Everyone's about trading prop, I'd say. I've got a couple people, I don't condone it by any means. They'll put in $1,000 every week and see how much they can turn that into and then just withdraw it at the end of the week. People's got different goals, different aspirations, and some people do well with it apparently. But for me and the group, I mean, they're mainly, I'd say 70% of them are funded or
Yeah.
on funded accounts.
Definitely. I see that too, and it's only going to grow. I feel like it's one of those
Yeah,
things as people learn about it, there's really not a good reason to say no to trading prop.
exactly.
I could
There's
put my
really
own hundred
not.
thousand in, or I could trade with yours for $700. So it's
Exactly.
a
It's
big
actually
difference.
crazy
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when we started, I mean, I dreamed of trading a $10,000 account for
Right.
6 months.
Right.
But I mean, that's an easy opportunity for what, like 47 bucks or something? Like that's
Yeah. You could get them
crazy.
cheap out there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, but it comes with like I'm sure most people don't take it seriously and have that well-structured plan. And I already know that most people get their funded accounts taken away because of things they do.
Yeah. Oh no.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, just like real trading. People blow accounts. There's such a small percentage of people who are profitable traders. And when
yep,
you could find somebody who's willing to share the knowledge with you, like you are and Joseph is, it's it combine that with the horsepower of a prop firm, you've got something really special there. But a lot of guys need the
absolutely.
mentorship. They just don't
They
have the
do.
and like you mentioned earlier, it's a lot of that off the chart stuff. The
It
strategy is the
is.
strategy, but everything else is kind of where they fall apart. So give me a little background on your school. Do you take purely new traders, or do they need to come with you with some trading knowledge?
I feel like everyone who comes in pretty much has some sort of knowledge. You don't need any knowledge to come in, but I feel like mainly people do have knowledge from YouTube or wherever it is. For me, like my system, my course is from A to Z, like if you're new or if you've been in it for a long time. It's basically I have a free course on YouTube, and it's basically that one on steroids with a lot more videos.
Hmm.
But I mean, I put a lot of effort into the course I put on YouTube, and there's a ton of traders that kill it. I mean, if you go read the comments, I mean, a lot of traders kill it from that YouTube course. I mean,
This is purely
at
a
the
free one. Anybody can go there and grab it.
yeah, yep.
Cool.
And it's 25 videos. And
Wow.
it took
money to do, but
I want people to see like the approach that I take and the system that I take. And I do believe that I can help traders because one, I've been beaten down in life a lot. So anything that comes my way does not affect me anymore. Whether I've had some of the craziest stuff happen to me, it just doesn't affect me anymore. So my emotions are like cut off from that. And I mean, I do think that's helped me with trading. I think
Sure. Yeah, I
that's
mean that's a
allowed
big piece of
me,
the puzzle.
yeah, it's allowed me to cut off my emotions to trading. Like if I see a trade and I'm in drawdown, it doesn't affect me. If I see a trade and I'm winning, it doesn't affect me. It literally is just is what it is at this point. You know
That's
what I
where
mean?
most traders are striving to achieve, right? They're trying to
Yeah.
get the emotion out of it, process over profits. How do you take a trader who's extremely emotional, nervous? How do you bring them towards that? They might never reach the pinnacle, but how do you start coaching them towards something that looks like that?
I think you have to do it yourself. I can tell you something till you're blue in the face, but you got to make that decision. Like either you want to have a good life and you want to be a profitable trader, or you want to just keep going for the home runs and failing time and time and time again. You're gonna have to get to that point where you're sick and tired of yourself, like making yourself in that situation where you're at.
Kind of like a
And that's
trader's rock bottom.
it is. It is. It's like either you give up or you fix what you're doing wrong. And for me, I can tell I've been doing it for years now, and people still they don't care what I say. Like even though I've mainly lived off trading income for 6 years now, and I've I've had to go through the different facets of, wow, I need to make money this month, you know? I
Sure.
want to buy this. I got a wedding coming up, you know, like stuff like that. Like I need to make money. Um, so it's one of those things where like I know how to solely just live off trading and I know exactly what you need to do to be a profitable trader and I can tell you till you're blue in the face, but you're probably not going to listen. It's just I hate it. I hate it. It actually makes me dislike teaching because I can say these things and just people won't listen and they want to be in 55 trades at once and it's
Hmm.
like, dude, that's just winging it at that point. Like
Right.
if you're in 25 trades or 5 trades even, like focus on one or two trade setups at a time is what I say because that gives you more to manage and like risk that 1% for the 3% gain.
Yeah, and get
And
it
you
right,
know,
and then
yeah,
reproduce it.
because let's say you're in 4 trades and 3 of those 4 lose, and now you're like, crap, dude. Like, I just took a big hit compared to like, okay, I'm in one trade, I'm risking 1%, and you know what? I don't have to be too stressed out because I don't have 5 trades on the board. I only have one, and if I lose that 1%, my next trade's gonna cover it 3 times.
Exactly.
Um, if you take it at that perspective instead of just kind of just winging it and I don't even think most people have like a specific setups they trade. I think a lot of times it's just a guess,
Oh, I think
honestly.
most of them.
Yeah.
I talk to people. I've talked to so many traders over the years, and not only in prop, not only in forex, but in traditional finance. And I could tell pretty early on in the conversation, who's doing well and who's not, just by
Yeah.
asking, "What's your trading strategy?" And
Mhm.
they're not using the right terminology, they're not using any of the right words, and so I know they're highly irregular in their profitability at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I always know.
Yeah,
I've seen every trick in the book. I know every trick in the book. You can tell I have common sense when it comes to people. You'll see people like, "Oh, hey, I'm posting this account." They'll post that account for 2 months, but where the heck did that account go, man? Where did it
yeah,
go?
sure, of
You haven't
course.
been posting it, It's like
Uh-huh.
just have that common sense, like be aware of your surroundings and watch people. Most people they can't hang on to one account.
Yeah,
Most
no, of
people.
course, absolutely. What do you say? And going back to the aptitudes of people to be able to do that off the chart stuff, right? Take the emotion out. What do you think the attributes are that people innately have that helps them with that? Like, when you see people come to you, um, you can kind of tell beforehand this guy's going to excel or this guy's not going to excel. What are some of those attributes you look for in high achievers?
So, some of the best basketball players in the world, they're all they have the ability to change direction very quickly. and they have the ability to fit through tight spaces and maneuver around things. And I think this goes for anything. The more you can adjust to what's happening to you in life, on the charts, everything, the more you can adjust, but in a good way, those people are the ones that I've always noticed are the ones that succeed. Because a lot of people want to just be told what to do. Like, oh, what's going on, man? Where it's like, dude, I've never been taught by everyone or by anyone, but I always say play detective. Like when I'm in a trade, I'm playing detective. I'm looking for reasons to get out of the trade if I see something I don't like. So I'm managing the trade while I'm in the trade, but I'm adapting to the situations of what happens if it doesn't go my way. Or, hey, the market's hitting a retest that I didn't see, a nice retest. This is something that I normally would buy, and I'm in a sell right now. I'm gonna take profit right there, even if that wasn't my original take profit, because I'm playing detective and I'm seeing things that I might have not have seen off the get go. I think some of the best traders are the ones that can adapt to the current situation. It doesn't always have to be set and forget, which I think can be a very great thing because probabilities wise it's a great thing.
Hmm.
But if I'm in a trade and I see something that I know is going to go against me, then I'm not going to hold that trade because I
Sure.
said my take profit was at a certain level, you
Kind of
know?
passive versus active management.
Yep, exactly.
That's a great
I just
explanation. It
think,
was kind of like Darwin, adapt or die. So the
yeah,
people who can
exactly.
adapt the best in a positive way are the people you've
Yep.
seen excel the most.
Yeah, you got to be able to make the decisions for yourself. Like
Cool.
as a trader, you have to, because even for me, like the way I give signals and the way I trade, it's a bit different. It's not the same because there are those times where like, hey, I'm in this trade, but dang, oh, I see something totally different that I saw 4 hours ago. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna exit that trade. Instead of just, putting that stop and profit, or putting that stop loss where it is and that take profit where it is. Like I do manage my trades as I'm in the trades because I do see things in the market that have occurred in the past that I've seen go against the move that I'm currently in. So I'm going to exit that move.
Right, exactly. That's one of the things you mentioned earlier about protecting your downside. So you know it's going to
Yeah,
go against you. Why leave it on set and forget? You're
exactly.
using your intuition that you've gained over the years of trading. So that's great.
Yeah. And that's another thing, intuition. I think intuition's huge as a trader because there's plenty of times where like, yeah, maybe the technicals and something's right on my TDI to make me want to enter that, but my intuition's maybe telling me that I don't know about this one. There's been multiple times where it happens and I didn't listen to my intuition. I lost the trade. It's like, dang it, dude, you should have listened to your intuition. So it's also listen to your intuition
Hmm.
because I do think that it does play a role in picking right trades. And then, I do have the trades where I'm like, oh, this one's cake. This is so easy, where it's like those are the types of trades I try to wait for.
Right, right.
Um,
So fewer
you know,
fewer AAA plus setups, I would imagine.
yep, exactly. Because
Joe,
like, why not? Why not? In if you have trades, right, that it happens to me probably once a week where I see a trade where I know that it's going to win just because it's such a beautiful setup. Why would I take mediocre trades
right,
in
of
between
course.
that and take away from my profit that I'm going to get on this trade that I know I'm going to win, you
That's a
know?
good point. Right, you're basically adding to losers with taking those in between trades.
And you might win some of those, right? But I would way rather get into a trade where I have a very strong inclination that it's going to win.
Going back to your strategy, how long does it take to become proficient? Not the off the chart stuff, the strategy itself.
So here's the thing. So Joe, he's my education guy for Trader Society, and he crushes it. Like he's a phenomenal trader and a phenomenal educator. Um, but because we met at the FX Summit 2 years ago, the first one that there was, we met, and he took my YouTube course, and he just didn't have a strategy, you know, he's kind of winging it. And from where he is now to where he was then, even when we started Trader Society in January, uh from I mean, he was a great trader back then, but he still had some things that he needed to work out. But man, now after it's been a year and a half, he's I mean, he's a good trader. He's just as good as me.
That's awesome.
Um,
The
yeah,
student
no, it's
becomes the
great.
teacher.
It's yeah, it's exactly. It's like I mean, he knows more about the market than I do. And I know that just because I've never paid attention to fundamentals or anything like that. I've always been a pattern trader. But he, you know, has the fundamentals and I'm sure different things that he's learned. And I know he's always educating himself, but yeah, no, he's a phenomenal trader. I think you can do it in 6 months. To me, I don't know. There's bizarre things in trading that just like kind of make me go bonkers. Like if you see a trend line, I believe in trend lines because see with my own eyes that they work.
Yeah, right, exactly. They're doing
You
something.
know,
Whether they're real or not,
yeah,
something's happening against them.
exactly. And I have a unique way of doing trend lines, but if I only take trades off of like either trend line retest or trend lines, like that already makes my win percentage that much better, or at least you're going to get some rejection off of those areas where you can protect yourself. So that's typically what I'll do is I'll take a trade and once it hits a certain area of confluence going against me, I'll put my stop loss in profit and then you know if it comes back and hits my stop loss and profit, that's a break even. I might enter again if it gives me another entry signal. If not, it's just a break even. But being able to enter on like those specific areas, I think just ups your game that much instead of waiting for, you know, breaks of this level or breaks of this level. It's like there's so many fake outs in the market that if you can see a trend line that's hit 5 times and rejected every time, it's like to me, yeah, I'll take that as long as the price action's right with that trade. I'll take that 6 time it hit that trend line,
Sure,
you
right, of
know?
course. You've got odds in your favor.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel the market has progressed since when you first started to now? We have a lot more participants, a lot more prop traders. Is the market become easier or harder to trade?
This has been a hard year. This has been a
Yeah,
hard year of
yeah,
trading, I would say, because we've obviously had these major runs the last 4 years, and now we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do. I mean, are we gonna drop or are we gonna rise? Like, it's kind of that in between stage. But I think that's just part of trading. Like, there's
sure.
better years and there's years that just are a little bit more difficult. You have to be a little bit have a little bit more discernment in the market. And this year's a tough year for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're not the only one who said that. You know, it's definitely been
Mm-hmm.
a hard year.
Yeah.
How much do you think fundamentals play into that? I know you said you don't really follow fundamentals, but I mean, there's a lot going on fundamentally.
Yeah, no, fundamentally, of course. I think that the pattern that's showing on the charts is going to work out regardless of what's going on fundamentally. And typically, what's going on fundamentally is going with what the pattern is on the chart.
So you think it's
And
already
that's
baked in
why,
there?
yeah, 100%. Because I've, like I said, I've looked at these charts so many dang times that I've seen these patterns. And when a pattern there's a specific pattern during news, it always does exactly what that pattern's telling me it's going to do. I think it's baked in. Like there was a time where I was like, "Oh, there's going to be a major news on crypto. Watch, it's going to cause a huge crash." And you know, FXT or whatever FTX
Hmm.
FTX had just came out and all this different stuff. It's like news aligns with what the charts are showing you, is what I believe.
Interesting. Is there any
Hmm.
news you don't trade? You know, you say, "Hey, I stay
I'm
out of the
not
markets during this time."
typically I'm already in a trade if there's news or I'm just flat. Um, so I'm not going to take a trade just because it's news. If I'm
Got
in
it.
a trade, I'll hold that trade during the news. If I feel like, hey, that's where price action, everything's telling me it's going to continue with my move. But other than that, I'm not going to take a trade just because it's news.
Cool. Yeah.
And
That so there's
I'm not going to get out of a trade because it's news.
right, right. That's what I was getting at. I mean, there's a lot of people who say, hey, I don't even want to be near the markets during news. But the
Mm-hmm.
technical guys, like I've heard this many times before, is that it doesn't really scare them away. Usually, it's going to
Yeah.
propel, whatever they were looking at towards their direction. Derek, before
Mm-hmm.
we let you go, would you pull up a quick chart for us, just down below? Click share, and maybe give us
Yeah, for
a quick
sure.
taste of what you guys do over at Trader Society.
Yeah, no problem. Let me see if this is going to be the right one.
And do you have any? What do you trade? Do you have a couple pairs that you focus on primarily, or are you all over the board?
So I look at every pair. Let me see here. Let me pull up something. Okay, so this is actually like a pretty good example
Hmm.
of a trade that I had called. So this is GBP NZD. And the reason why I took this trade right in here, as you can see, so we have a pretty wicked divergence right here. But we have a divergence on a trend line. We have a divergence on a 50 level fib, and we have a divergence on this is what I call an AOI trend line, area of interest trend line.
Hmm.
Um, because a lot of times you'll see things like I'll cut through the market like this. All there's actually a good example. So I'll look for specific rejections in here. Like, okay, we got a rejection here, rejection here. Oh, look, that lines up with this area in here where on my TDI that aligns with what I want to see. We have a trend line from the high right there. Aligns with what I want to see. We have a trend line from right through here. That aligns perfectly because we got the rejection, 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 four rejections. Now, once it retests, that's going to be the fifth rejection on that specific area. And then as long as my TDI aligns with the confluence, that's when I take the trades. And I typically, like I have A setup, B setup, and C setup. So this is
Hmm.
an A setup just because it's going with the trend. Well, it's going with the current trend. I'd
Sure.
say this is actually a B setup. But this like a C setup's always going to be there like a lower low or a higher high.
Hmm.
A B setup's going to be kind of like a retest somewhere or something like that, and then A setup's going to be like a lower high on a super nice confluent area with whether that's like support turned resistance or trend line 61.8, whatever it is, there's got to be confluence in that area that's going with the overall trend. And that's going to be an A setup for me. So I
How many
do,
A's are you identifying a week roughly?
it's funny. So if I was on the charts at all times, there would probably be from the 1 hour chart to the because I'll use the 5, 6, 7, 8 hour time frames because
Okay.
sometimes they'll give you different clues. But I would say there's at least bare minimum two a week throughout the pairs, at bare minimum. But you have to be on the charts a lot
Sure.
to
And are
or
you
know
on
which.
these A's? Are you sizing up?
So A setups, I'll typically use like 2% risk,
Okay.
which gives me 6% return. Anything else is usually 1% or 0.5%.
Got it.
C
And that's
setup's
all
gonna
written out in
always
your trading
be.
plan. That
Yep,
those are
yep,
kind of steadfast rules.
yep. So that's in, there are some times where it's like, okay, I'm gonna risk 3% on this one because it's so easy.
Hmm.
Um, and and sometimes I honestly don't even get a risk 3% because I'll usually separate my positions into three positions. So I'll take my first position, especially if it's like a 4 hour trade. I'll take my first position at a nice area, and then if it goes against me, I'll enter again. If it goes against me, I'll enter one more time. So I allow myself three entries. Now, uh, like when I'm trading like that, and it doesn't just go with my first entry, uh, what happens? Like, so let's say I get like a lot more drawdown than I was expecting on these first two entries, but it hasn't hit my stop loss. I I always know where that next area of confluence is going to be for me to enter my other positions.
Hmm.
So what I'll do if I really don't like the trade, or if I'm not loving the trade when I'm in it, when that first entry, which is the lowest entry, the one that's in the most drawdown, and that third entry or the second entry break even, I'll oftentimes close those trades. So I've got a break even, and then at that point, my last trade is already in my stop loss is already in
Right. So
profit.
you've got a much better entry. Are you increasing your size at that point to make up for those drawdowns?
So I try to enter. It's dependent on the setup, right? Like if it's a good setup, I'm gonna risk pretty heavy on my first entries. Like
Hmm.
maybe I'll use 20 lots, and then maybe my max risk I'm willing to do is 60 lots, right? So maybe on my first entry, I'll risk 30 lots. And then my second entry, maybe it's going to be 15. Maybe my third entry will be, or maybe it'll be 10. My third entry will be 20 lots. It's kind of dependent. Sometimes it's just all the same. Sometimes, okay, I'm going to enter 20 lots, 20 lots, 20 lots. It's just dependent on the setup.
Right,
Sometimes there
right.
are setups where I just do enter once using that 3% risk because this is going to come off that area.
Hmm.
There are times when I do that, but typically, like especially, it's not always the easiest to hit the tops and bottoms on a 4 hour
Sure.
time frame.
Yeah, of course.
So that's why I have it set up to where like, okay, I already know I've all entered 3 times for my max risk of 2% and have that calculated what I want to do. Typically, it's going to be the same lot size every time.
Cool.
So yeah,
Cool. Awesome. Well, Derek,
yeah.
thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming. One other thing I did want to ask you. Explain the shark fin before you go.
Okay, so the shark fin. Let's go. Let me give out my US 30. It's a scalping strategy. So let me do this. And it's actually insane how well this scalping strategy works. So the TDI right here, this is the TDI. We have our RSI, we have the Bollinger Bands, and what I call a shark fin is when the RSI pops out of the Bollinger Bands right here. And typically when you see that happen, you'll see it's like the rubber band effect. It's like it will snap back into the in place. That's how I kind of relay it. But if you get like, especially like US 30, 15-minute time frame, if you get a shark fin on that 15-minute time frame with confluence, like it could be like, okay, we have this retest right here where we
Hmm.
got the rejection, rejection, rejection. Well, right down here, we have a 15-minute shark fin. I would take that buy up to that next area of confluence. So once I find that, I already would know it would what that next area of confluence would be. When I take that buy, that's where my take profit's going to be, that next area of confluence. And when I'm scalping, I'll use a 1 to 2 risk to reward because you got to give yourself some breathing room.
Sure.
But that is exactly how I would trade the 15. And this was my strategy on the 5 minute and 1 minute. It's trend line, shark fin, and it's crazy. I mean, it works 8 out of 10 times easily. I mean, you can look at all the shark fins right here, and this is just another example. And you'll get 100, 200 points out of them. Pretty simple. But here's another one right here. So this would be, support shark fin right here, and it went from what 33,983 to 34 130 ish.
Hmm.
And my take profit here would have been that 50 moving average right in there. When that's exactly where it hit. Plenty of people that I teach, I mean, they took that trade without me calling out the signal because, I mean, it's just a shark fin on a trend line,
Right, right.
and
Pretty
then
straightforward strategy.
it really is. It's simple, and if you look back like at the 15-minute time frame for shark fins, especially like on Confluence, I mean, the thing works like crazy. It works so dang good. I mean,
Are
here's
you looking
another
for any
example.
particular size or magnitude of it coming out of the RSI, or as so long as it pops
This,
out, it's a shark fin?
no, no. So it's got to be below the 25 on our RSI levels right here. So for if I'm gonna buy, it's got to be below the 20,
Hmm.
25, and if I'm gonna sell, it's got to be above the 80 or
Got it.
75, right around in there. But it's what solves that problem is just finding the confluence. So if you have a shark fin, it doesn't matter what level it's on, uh, but you have that confluence there. I mean, it's like I said, it's going to work 8 out of 10 times, um, and especially if you're using the appropriate confluence
Cool.
with
Very
those
cool.
shark fins. Yeah.
How often do you trade those these days?
I'm actually gonna get back into it now that I got all these props. I have only been trading like anywhere from the 1 hour to daily time frame for
Hmm.
the past 3 years. But I've been doing a lot of back testing, getting my brain ready to do more scalping type trades because I do like I want to be in more trades and whatnot. Especially with the market conditions, I'm not getting a
Right.
ton of setups right now, maybe one or two a week,
Hmm.
which is fine. Like
A lot of
I'm
shark
totally
fins, though.
cool. Yeah, yeah, I'm totally cool with only taking one or two setups a week. I'm cool with only taking one or two setups a month as long as I'm profitable that
Right.
month.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, if
It's hard.
there's
Also,
nothing
it's kind of
else
hard
there,
to educate within those parameters.
yeah, it
Traders
really is.
want to see trades. To
Well,
their
that's what I'm noticing. Like it's funny because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm probably one of the only swing traders that actually trades that style. That's like that I know that's in like the kind of influencer world. A
Mhm.
lot of people are scalpers.
Yeah.
But I notice, I mean, it affects me in like people wanting to be my student because people want to be scalping,
Right.
you know?
Right.
It's
Yep.
just what it is. Like they just want to be in trades, man.
Yeah. I
And
know
I
you have to
tell
you have
them
to pull them back from the darkness, pull them back towards the light.
exactly. And the good thing about it is like if there's a trader that's on the cusp of being profitable, whether he trades my strategy or not, I'll usually give them something to make them profitable. Whether it's mental, psychological, whatever it is, there's usually something that I teach
Right. A
them
small a
that,
small tweak that somebody who's almost profitable could take home and become profitable.
yeah, exactly. I mean, one of my students that's been with me for a year now, his name is Millie, and he trades this gold strategy based on some like order flow and then with the shark fins or divergence on, and he scalps it and he kills it every day. Like literally every day. And there were just certain things that I had to teach him to get him over that level of like, okay, one, do you know what you're looking for every time you take a trade? And are you just taking trades to take them, or are you taking setups that are based off valid things in the market that gives us like reasons to be in the trades?
Right.
You know, it's stuff like that where it's like you have to look at yourself and see what you're doing and see if you can fix anything to make it better. And once you eliminate those trades that you shouldn't be taking because you just feel like you need to be in a trade right now, that's a huge problem right there that many
Yeah.
people have.
Huge problem.
You don't you don't
The
have to be in a
coaching is
ton
so
of
much more
trades.
important than the strategy even.
Exactly, it really is. It really is.
Awesome.
But
Well, Derek,
yeah.
where could people find you? I know you said you had a YouTube.
So yeah, so I have a YouTube, Derek Vandelinder. Look up Derek Vandelinder on YouTube. My Instagram is Derek underscore Vandy, and my website is www.tradersociety.com.
Awesome, awesome. It's been a real pleasure, Derek. I really appreciate you joining
Absolutely,
me,
you too.
and I'd love to have you on a month or so to recap and see how your trades are going.
Absolutely, let's make it happen.
Cool, brother. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, appreciate it, Corey.